Hello, welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast, hosted by me, Jack Perks. Professionally, I'm a wildlife cameraman, but I dabble in podcasting, and each Tuesday we release an episode as I have a chat with scientists, artists, filmmakers, and passionate people all about nature in a light-hearted and certainly not serious way. Hello and welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast. I'm your host, Jack Perks. Now today my guest is Josh Pickett. I've known Josh for a couple of years now and he is nothing if not obsessed with fish, a man after my own heart. Now Josh goes into the minutiae and the really nerdy facts, and that's what I love about him and the work that he produces. He is a writer, he does publishing, he's an amazing guy, lots of fingers and lots of pies. So we're going to talk about things like, are koi carp a separate species from Saprinus carpio? Are we separate species between Cornish suckerfish and chalkling fish? That's the kind of tone of this podcast. It's quite a nerd one. We're also going to species hunting as well and talk a little bit about that. Before we get into that, I want to just mention that recently I did some screenings for Britain's Hidden Fishes, which is the film that I did with Jeremy Wade. They were really well attended. We had over 70 people at the Cornish one. There were 40 people at the Devon one. And there were a couple of podcast listeners who came along. There was Dan from the West Country Rivers Trust, so fantastic to meet him and have a little chat. He bought one of my posters. And I also met a guy called Andy. And Andy came up to me and went, "Here's 20 quid. And I was like, "What's this for?" He's like, "I've been meaning to do it for a while through buymeacoffee.com, so here's the money." So if any of you feel like you want to just hand me some cash at events, I'm more than happy to do that. But it got me thinking, if you've wanted to donate but you haven't, why is that? Is it people don't like buymeacoffee.com? And some of you do it, of course. But I've had a couple of people now who have actually just handed me money live at events. So I just wondered, are you a listener who would like to support the podcast financially, but you don't like buymeacoffee.com? So let me know if there's anything else we can do to streamline that. Andy also said, we spoke in the car park after, that, you do know that when you say see you next Tuesday at the end of your podcast, that means something else. And I said, yes, I'm well aware that what that means, and that's part of the joke. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, so there was that as well. Anyway, it was a great event. If you would like to see Britain's Hidden Fishes, I am trying to arrange more screenings. We've got one coming up in Leicester, hopefully, one in Lincolnshire. There's one in Gloucestershire and Wiltshire. So we've got them popping up. If you'd like to see the film, maybe you're part of an angling group, a wildlife group, a rivers trust, something like that, and you would like to do a screening of Britain's Hidden Fishes, get in touch and we can get that arranged. Now, let's get to today's podcast. I'm meeting Josh Pickett in Plymouth and we're fishing along the Barbican as we're talking all about nerdy fishy things. Here's our chat. Well, welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast. I am in Plymouth on a lovely sunny day and I'm joined by Josh Pickett. How are you doing, buddy?
All good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, sat in. So we're in Sutton Harbour, is that right?
Yeah, Sutton.
We're just next to the Plymouth Aquarium, which I'm very tempted to go in at some point. I've never actually been into Plymouth Aquarium, and we're both fishing. I've got a little LRF set up. We're just going to see what we can dangle. I've had a 2-spot goby, which was the target this morning, so I'm absolutely chuffed with that because I've never caught one before. And Josh has been slaying gobies as well this morning, haven't you? You've got a few species.
Yeah, common, painted, yeah.
Yeah. Well, people may have already guessed we're going to be talking about fish today among various other bits and bobs. So what's your background, Josh? Kind of what makes you such a keen fishophile?
Mainly it's just obsession. That's long and short of it, really. Generally, I've always loved fish. I grew up around rivers and lakes along the Avon.
So you're Wiltshire way originally, aren't you? Yeah.
Salisbury specifically. I've always sort of been drawn to them. I ended up going into publishing and then communication design, and I sort of realised that if you want to be a conservationist, effectively you just utilise whatever skill you've got. And that's what I decided to try and do. I tried to use communication design to get into a bit of science communication and sort of help get fish back in the fore of people's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've done a similar thing, but the camera's my tool, whereas the pen is yours, isn't it? Like you're just sort of getting into that and because you've written for a few practical fish keeping, right, and sea angler, is that right?
Yeah, practical fish keeping, sea angler, British Wildlife. There's a few others as well.
Yeah, anyone that'll have you. you have to be like that. Sorry, I'm slurping tea down as we're fishing. So, and one of the things I sort of associate with you is you're quite happy to go into like the minutiae and really weird nerdy stuff that most people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot barge pole, but you seem to just dive straight in.
They're the things that are overlooked the most.
Yeah, well,
and it's always interesting to pick up on those things.
So, because obviously you're picking out papers and stuff, is that something you would just be doing anyway?
For the most part, yeah. So,
okay.
I don't know if you've heard of Eschmier's catalogue of fishes.
I could say yes, but I'm going to say no. I haven't. No.
So effectively, it's a list created by the California Academy of Sciences, or at least hosted by them, and you can check to find out valid scientific names on species. They update it fairly regularly. I'm always on there as well because I'm looking on there for references for certain species. Obviously, I've got my a list of as many British species as I can sort of realistically target on
Yes.
online
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I always go on there to check to find out, okay, is this actually a valid scientific name? Because what you find on Google, let's be honest, it's quite often
the internet's a fucking nightmare, isn't
horrible.
it?
It's horrible.
It is an absolute
It's a cesspool.
Yeah, it's despicable, and we should all get off it. One website will say one thing, and then a book's not been updated for God knows how long, so it is all over the place, isn't it? So
that's a good thing with books, though, is books you have extra layers of scrutiny. So magazines have got a little bit more scrutiny, then books have got even more scrutiny. So even when a book is outdated, for the most part, it's ranges or an old scientific name. You can just check Eschmier's catalogue to just find out, okay, is this the correct name?
But for the most part, it should be there. Yeah.
Whereas anyone could just write anything online.
Yes, and they do.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they've got references on it. It's great if they've got a reference on there. But again, how do we know they've checked them? So that's why you go through and you dive right into it. So.
With the field guide I've just done on fish, so I like to think I know a thing or two about fish without my head getting too big. So then there's that layer, and then each chapter has been sent to an expert.
Yeah.
So like whoever, whether it's someone I know or someone the publisher knows, they've looked it all over, and then again there'll be a copy editor. So it's three rounds of scrutiny. I'm not saying it'll be, inevitably some arsehole's going to be like, that's not right. But for the most part, I'm pretty confident that what's in that book is pretty good. Whereas, like you say, anyone can write a blog and just say, oh well, we've got 8 species of bullhead, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, every article or feature I've wrote, I've always gone through with. I've got a guy who does scientific revision for me as well. So he'll go through and have a look and find out, okay, is that the correct terminology I've used?
Yeah.
For the most part, it normally is, but sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I've said something wrong here. Now that's changed the whole context of it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I've got you just giving it a pass over.
Yeah, no, I think it's just due diligence more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
But one of the things that caught my eye was recently you looked into the bullhead in the British Isles, which I'm really glad you did, because that was just before I had to hand in my deadline for the book, so I was able to change the scientific name, because historically it was always assumed that we had the bullhead, the Cottiscobio.
That's it. Yep.
But that might not be the case, or that is not the case.
No, it's not the case. No. So we've got one species, and it's called Cottis perifretum. The French call it Chabert bullhead.
Okay.
I mean, we can
Chabert.
Yeah. I mean, the CH pronounces an S.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm done.
But yeah, so yeah, we also call them common bullhead or just bullhead. We've only got one species. So
I think joined by a
little dog.
Oh, I thought it was a cat. What the hell?
Small dog.
What's in this tea? I've been hitting the whiskey early. So the species that we thought we had, we don't have. It's a different.
Yeah, Cottis perifretum.
Okay.
So they're virtually identical, really.
Okay.
So it was actually found this out roughly 20 years ago, maybe 18, 19 years ago.
Oh right. Oh, so it's nothing new then.
No. So it's a scientist called Jörg Freyhoff and his co-writers, Maurice Kotelkat, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Okay.
So they did a revision on Cottiscobio in general, and in there they realised that Cottiscobio wasn't a single species; it was a complex of species, and I think they split it into 8 different species
across Europe.
Across Europe,
yeah.
And one of them was present in the UK, which was Cottis perifretum. And that is present in parts of France, I think parts of Germany and England as well. So they thought, okay, brilliant, that's all revised there. So and it was quite compelling evidence as well. But we were slow to acknowledge those changes in the UK.
Right, okay.
Very slow to, and unfortunately I think that's a bit of a trend with a lot of science that comes out of Europe, ichthyology science that comes out of Europe. We're slow to accept.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. I think you're right. Because am I right in saying that they're? Oh, are you snagged? Oh no, okay.
There you go.
It's a massive conger or something. That there might be a distinction between northern bullheads and stuff. Like the northern ones might be slightly different, or am I making that up?
No. So,
okay, good.
As they migrated out, so the ancestral population that share the common ancestor of Coxgobia and Periphyton came from the Paratethys Sea. So they migrated out of there. They drifted further and further west.
Okay.
And over time, as they were branching over, they became more and more distant from Paratethys.
Right. Okay.
And then once they got to, by the time they got to say Britain, they branched into Periphyton by this point.
Right. Okay.
But because bullhead they're very localised.
Yeah.
And they tend to stay within those populations. They split and quite diversify quite a lot. And it seems to be a point, I think it's around Leeds. So below Leeds is it's the same clade of Periphyton that we associate with the ones in mainland Europe, say France.
Okay, yeah.
The ones north of that is a whole new branch.
Oh, wow.
So we still consider it Periphyton, though more research is needed. So if we do have another species of bullhead, it will be north of Leeds.
So
it's definitely not Coxgobia.
No, okay.
It's quite far removed from that.
Yeah.
But it may be a subspecies of Periphyton.
Yeah.
It could just be.
I mean, this is the nightmare, isn't it? When you get into like what is a species,
Yeah.
And if I want to get
completely arbitrary.
well, if I want to get philosophical about it, a species is what people decide a species is, isn't it?
Yep.
So, like, if you look at something like brown trout, the genetic diversity in brown trout is unreal, and yet we just say they're all brown trout. But if you wanted to kind of look for a fine pick tooth, there's probably 20 or 30 different species in there, but it's not recognised as such. And then on the flip side of things, you get, people picking out minute things. Go, well, that's a separate species. That's a separate species. Like in the UK, we're kind of a bit underwhelmed, really, because we've only got one roach, we've only got one rudd, we've only got one ruff. But if you go to Europe, there's a dozen different kinds of roach, different species of roach, and different species of rudd. And I've got an old Peter Mayland book, and it goes through all the European species, and there's like 10 different gudgeon and things like that, and you think, God, we haven't got half of it over here, have we? And it makes you think whether we maybe did at one point, and we've lost them, or they've hybridised, or what, I don't know. Or
I think it's partly due to a lot of European freshwater species diversity came out Paratethys.
Right.
And then to get a lot of species over here, they had to pass a glacial field.
Oh, okay.
So I think that I could be wrong on this, completely, but that may have something to do with it.
That's why we've just got far less diversity than the rest of Europe.
Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense. Did you see the record was well, it wasn't an official one, but someone had caught a massive bullhead recently. It was in the Angling Times.
I saw, yeah, I did see that.
So
yeah.
I was just thinking, God, that's a lump of a bullhead.
It's a lovely bullhead.
They must get those mini species records must get broken all the time.
Yeah, and people just don't know, do they?
They just don't. They don't bother with it, do they, at all? But
I remember the bullhead you spotted, or that chap spotted in the video you did as well, with the one with the screen. It was the pathway through the dam. The chap spotted a
oh yes,
bullhead.
yeah. Sorry, on the Diggler's Fish Pass. Yeah. That was a chunky bullhead, actually.
That was a very big bullhead.
Yeah. I didn't take a rod with me that day, but yeah, there was. That was a pretty decent sized bullhead, but yeah. I'm just assuming that everyone knows what a bullhead is. But if we were to describe a bullhead, how would you describe one?
Oh, a strange combination between a goby and a sea scorp, really. But small.
Yeah, that's a good. So, and if you're not into your fish, they're basically like a little bottom-dwelling fish with quite a broad head, which I assume is why they're called bullheads.
Yeah, it's the only freshwater species of bullhead we've got in the UK. We've got other species of bullhead, but they're obviously saltwater. So
they're like sculpin family, right? Because okay, here's the thing for you. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here. So I constantly get bollocked by people online because I call them short-spined scorpion fish as opposed to short-spined sea scorpion.
It's just a common name. It varies. So it does not matter at all.
No, I don't give a fuck. But my my rationale is, it makes more sense to call it a fish
Yeah.
than a scorpion.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a sea scorpion, because there is the argument is that there is another fish called a sea scorpion that's venomous in the tropics, which I completely get that. But I'm just used to saying it's a fish, where I think it makes more sense to call it a fish. But as long as you know what I'm talking about, does it matter?
It really doesn't. It's people just nitpicking when they don't need to, really.
I know.
It's the same thing with the bass we've got, calling them bass or sea bass.
Exactly. Some
matter.
people get really funny about that.
It's because it's the only species of bass we've got, so therefore we don't need to say it's sea bass. But it doesn't matter. Like,
when I come to power, Josh, things are going to change. My dictatorship will be ruthless. There will be, forced fishing, and if you don't like it, you get kicked out, and some other stuff I'll implement as well. But
I wish. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You could be vice chancellor, so I'll find a role. You'll be in the cabinet somewhere. But yeah, it is funny when people can get on the minutiae of that sort of stuff for species and whatnot. Because I think the first thing I picked up from you was clingfish. So I remember you doing a blog on your, because where do you post all this? Is on a website, right?
Yes, so it varies. So I've got my own blog, which I started recently. Also use Chris Inglizu, so he has a website.
Okay.
So he's chap who does his Biotope blog.
Yeah.
Freshwater Life Project as well. So some of my stuff goes on there too. That's effectively that's it. Yeah.
But it was clingfish that caught my attention, because you were talking about Cornish sucker and shore clingfish. Now, in my head, I assume they were the same thing.
A lot of people do.
And this is not the case, right?
No, two different species, distinct species. So they both share similar ranges.
Okay.
They're both virtually identical. Their markings can sometimes vary.
Yeah.
But again, with a lot of fish, it just overlaps anyway. And it's weird as well, because I believe it's the Wildlife Trusts also lists them as the same species.
Yeah, so this is we're coming back to the online thing, which is why the internet is dark and full of terrors. Yeah. Don't quote something on the internet generally unless it's backed up with evidence.
Yeah.
Which is what I like about your vlog, is that your blog, is that you'll have all the papers listed. So this is what I found out. If you want to query that, here is the paper. Yeah. So which is a good, rather than Gary from Wigan who just put some bollocks on Facebook. That's not what that is. Like, okay, great, fantastic.
But it's a shame. I put that up there. I think that it might be more useful for people doing surveys, less so than angling, because really the only way you're going to tell them apart properly is they've got these little nodules on their stomach.
Right.
And it's the amount of rows that they have differs. So
that's crazy.
I believe it's the shore has more than the Cornish sucker. Again, I'll have to double check.
Yeah. Well, I can always put a link so if people want to if people want to count the nodules on a clingfish.
Yeah, but they are so small.
Yeah.
Really small. So unless you need to have a good zoom on your camera to be able to do that.
So that's what I mean. Like, so you've got that which is classed as a different species, and then you've got something like a little tiny hill brown trout and a sea trout, and it's the same species.
Yeah.
So it's kind of double standards to some degree, I think.
But also, to expand on that, I think it started originally because when fishes were early being described, they had to take them back to the lab, so a lot of them were dead specimens, and most ray-finned fish, when they die, they lose all their markings. So markings, for the longest time in ichthyology, really paid little influence to the description of a species. It usually be meristics, morphology. That's
which to be honest it's one of my pet hates whenever fish ID comes up. Is people go, oh, it's that colour, so it's that. Whereas really, colour is a very poor way to ID most fish.
It may give you an indicator. But
it's maybe a little tick, but it's not a definite, because most fish can change colour so rapidly according to. Well, have you got a fish? You on?
No.
Okay. Fish can change colour according to stress, to environment, all these factors. So I'm always very wary when someone's like, oh, well, it was this colour, so it can't be this or this. And I'm like, you can't. You can use it in conjunction with other things to help you, but not as a definite. Like the classic one being like roach or something. Like, oh, it's got red fins, so it has to be a roach. Like, well, not necessarily. So
exactly. Just look at ballan-wrasse.
Yeah,
of course. They vary from just one spot.
Yeah, they're all over the shop, aren't they? So. The whole clingfish thing. And you'd say their distribution overlaps as well?
Yeah.
So you could find them in the same areas?
So I don't think it's been evidenced so far that we have confirmed shore clingfish in the UK.
Oh, is that right?
I
Okay.
think I'm confident we do. It's just been overlooked.
How many people are counting the...
Exactly,
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But so far, all what's been verified here is the Cornish sucker.
The Cornish sucker. And I'm guessing their distribution is mostly Cornwall. That's where they get the name from. But okay.
But you can catch them all round, really. So, well, not all round.
No. Because me and Josh are assuming people know what these things look like. They're basically... They don't look like a fish, do they? They look like a slug almost. They're a really weird kind
like
of...
a slug meets a salamander.
Yeah, they are.
It glues itself.
I tell you
to
what,
rocks.
they look like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
They do genuinely look like a Pokemon. Like if you've
Cornish
never...
sucker definitely does.
Yeah, Google... Be careful where you Google this, but Google Cornish sucker. And on certain websites you may get different results. And you'll know what we're talking about. They're really fun. I mean, I remember when I was rock pooling around Falmouth, I used to find them fairly regularly, but in recent years, I haven't found one for ages, actually. So I don't know if there's been a decline or what. But
a few of us went out quite recently in Falmouth to go find some, and we found, I think it was 3 or 4.
Oh, you did find
in
some?
One session.
Yeah,
yeah.
Good. Okay. Because, they used to be fairly easy to come across. And the other thing I saw, which was fascinating, or I found fascinating anyway, was the koi carp thing that you wrote.
Oh, yeah.
So, for the longest time, I just had to watch my rod then, it just knocked a bit. I'd always assumed that koi were just a variety of common carp, Saprinus carpio, but the origins is slightly different to that. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mercarp, but it's quite muddy, this is. So
strap yourselves in, listeners.
You can effectively create your own koi carp, I'd say with quote marks, at home, really. So it's said that early koi carp were bred from... might have to remember.
You're loading.
Yeah,
You're loading.
loading.
I can see the bars on your head, Josh. So amur carp, they're different to common carp, right? They're a separate species.
Yeah, hold on.
Which is... Because I can't say the scientific name right. It's Saprinus...
You might have to pause this. It's one I wrote this one.
Rubofructus, isn't it?
Rubofructus. Jesus Christ.
Oh, neither of us can...
No.
Well...
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay.
I wrote this one last summer.
Okay, got you. Well, I'm dyslexic and a lisp that appears out of nowhere, so I'm not very well versed to read it. It's Rubofructus or something like that. But essentially, the idea is that common carp, the one that we're used to, are probably not the originators of this species, and koi, apart from the colours, which I think you mentioned as well, like any fish technically, like common carp could have those colours. It's just that we bred koi specifically to get those, didn't we?
There we go. So the breeders that were keeping the amur carp at the time, the wild amur carp, over time domesticated them, and eventually they would notice in some of their stock that some would be slightly red. We know this now. It was a form of xanthism, which generally makes fish yellowy orange.
Okay.
In the context of Cyprinus, it makes them give them a little bit of a red tinge.
Okay.
And it was this that they ended up. So xanthism is very unstable, especially in Cyprinus. So you can get quite blotchy fish from this colour, from this sort of colour morph. And eventually they selectively bred for more of these markings.
Yeah.
These are just, strictly speaking, the modern koi carps. This is dating back to, say, the early 1800s.
Yeah.
And they mainly became in the trade now, so they've been bred around.
While Josh is thinking about koi carp, I'm just going to jump in here and plug buymeacoffee.com. So if you want to support this podcast, you can do so via buymeacoffee.com. I'm a completely independent podcaster. I don't have any sponsorship. I don't get any ad revenue from this, really. So the only way that I can make this happen is if you, the listener, support me financially. All I'm asking is the price of a cup of coffee or a pint, £5. It's a one-off payment. You don't have to do it more than once if you don't want to. And it just helps me keep the cost for hosting and makes me justified to spend the time that I do making these podcasts. So if you go to a link in the description, you can find it in buymeacoffee.com and you can donate to that, which is greatly appreciated. You can also leave a comment, which I'll read out. So this week, we've got Paul Flint, and he bought me a coffee and he's put, "Love the de-extinction pod." So a few weeks ago, well, months ago now, I did a podcast on bringing back woolly mammoths, which is a bit of a funky one, which was really good. So if you want to check that out, we did that. But yeah, thanks for the coffee, Paul. And yeah, if you want to support, if you want to write a message and I'll read it out on the podcast, you can do so, and I'll be much appreciated. Anyway, let's go back to Plymouth and find out about these koi carp with Josh.
Okay, Josh has reloaded now. The matrix is back to normal. How do we tell the difference between a common carp and an amur carp then, or a koi carp?
So it's mainly just the lateral line scales. So your common carp would have 33 to 37 lateral line scales, and the amurs average a little bit less with 29 to 33. That's really, so there's a little bit of overlap there, and for the most part, a lot of them hybridise anyway. So if you're a species purist, maybe don't count amur carp. But if you don't mind having a hybrid for the most part, then I'm sure it's fine.
It's one of those. It's Schrodinger's carp, isn't it? Like, it's very difficult because people always gone about like DNA tests, but realistically, how many anglers are going to get a fish DNA tested to know for sure? No one's going to do that. But equally, we still import carp from Japan.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are most likely to be pure or nearly pure, aren't they?
Almost certainly.
So, if you could find somewhere that had Japanese pure koi, you might have to go to like an ornamental garden or something. You've got half a chance. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it's if you want to be a purist about it, it would be koi with a question mark, wouldn't it? In terms of like there was one I had called I've got to say this name right now, Nicarabuna.
Oh yeah.
So that is another Japanese fish. It's a kind of goldfish that's only found in one lake in Japan, and for some unknown reason, a lake in Sussex.
Yeah.
God knows how it got there. And morphologically, it does look different to a goldfish, but some papers say it's just a kind of goldfish, and then other papers do describe it as a distinct species. But it's one of those ones where, like, if someone wants to argue that it is a gold, I'm not going to push back too much. I've classed it as a separate species, but I know it could go one way or the other. I mean, up until recently, Prussian carp were just classified as a goldfish, and it's only in the last sort of 20 odd years or so that we've kind of formally recognised them as a separate species. So it comes and goes all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. It does go and fro. I actually caught a koi carp 2 days ago, and its lateral line count was 33. So it probably was a koi, but then it could have been on the lower end of a common or the upper end of a koi. I don't know. But it's up to people if they want to count those or not, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, we've kind of touched on it there. Species hunting in general, it's quite an obsessive thing to get into. How long have you been doing it?
2 years, I think, maybe. The actual species hunt fishing wise.
Yeah.
I've been fishing for years, but only got into LRF really about 2 years ago.
So if you're not an angler, or maybe you don't know about species hunting, it's the closest thing I can compare it to is like twitching in bird watching. Yeah. And it's kind of like, basically, anglers go all around the UK or sometimes all over the world, and they just try to see how many species they can catch. And I've kind of fell into this weird world myself, and it does become quite obsessive. Like, it's all I want to do is go out and get new species, and everyone has their own different idea of what a list should be. So, like, well, what kind of list you get like year lists, don't you? Some people do a year list.
You've got yearly tallies, you have your unscented tallies, catch them on unscented lures, lure-only tallies. I mean, people
there are comps as well, aren't there, that you can do?
Yeah. People do it to just make a challenge, really.
Yeah, which I think is. I mean, so my personal one is just a life list. So we were on about it earlier. Like, trying to get 100 species in a year, you've got to have deep pockets and a lot of time. Yeah. And I don't have either of those. So, but I'm on. As of today, I'm on 88 species. So, if I can get 12 more this year, I'll be pretty chuffed with that. But yeah, it'd
be fantastic.
It is a weird kind of subsect of angling, because it's not. There's a community that's growing, but it's not big. Not that. You know, whenever I mention it's like a carp angler, or they look at me like I'm sniffing pants out the drawer or something. Like, they've got that weird mistrustful look at me.
I get that as well. A lot of my mates like to go for the big fish. So when I say, I'm going for some gobies today, they're fuck off.
Yeah, no, they just don't understand it, and that's, if you want to do species hunting, you literally have to target everything from 2 centimetre gobies all the way up to 200-pound skate in Scotland, and you end up travelling. I think in a way it's a great way to make you a better angler and a better biologist in a way, because you've got to be good at IDing. Like, as we were talking about, there's a lot of species that you've got to know your onions to be able to tell them apart. and I think it is growing. There are more and more people doing species hunting, which is nice. I mean, what do you reckon? Here's a question for you. What do you reckon the kind of upper number is? Like, what do you reckon is the biggest number someone could get in the UK? How many species could they get?
That's a tough one.
Because I was trying to work out who has the most.
I've got some friends around 110, 120.
Really?
Yeah.
But I reckon there's got to be. So I meant to do this before we started recording, but I never got around to asking them. But I was going to ask a guy called Scott Hutchinson.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
And I did ask him to do the podcast, but he said he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to do it. So, which is fair enough. He doesn't have to. But I reckon he could be a contender for the most UK species.
Mm.
And I didn't actually ask him. I meant to try and get him on, but I'm sure he's on about the upper 120s, maybe even 130 in the UK.
That's still incredible.
No, it's mental. It's absolutely crazy. But I also think, like, if you were lucky, I don't think 150 is unachievable.
In my opinion, I still think that pushing around 200 is doable.
200? Bloody hell.
Maybe 180 to 200. I think is. I mean, you'd have to put a lot of time and money into it, but that list I put together, a lot of them aren't offshore species. A lot of them are inshore species.
How many species are on your list? Do you know, roughly?
220, something.
Oh,
like
is it?
that.
Okay, yeah. I suppose a lot of it would just be luck as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
mostly luck involved.
A lot of those marine fish, like, they've been caught, but one or two get caught a year. So you know, how do you narrow that down?
And some of them as well, like some of them are ultra small. You're not really going to catch from the harbour, but you go out on a little boat, not too far out, and just use maybe like a mile or so, and use ultralight and feel for the bites.
Like your transparent goby, your crystal goby, your fries goby, and stuff like that.
Get the odd scorpion goby as well.
Yeah.
Which are really interesting. Or diminutive goby.
Yes, yeah. So you're gonna get stuff like that just barely anyone's.
Or two-spotted clingfish as well. That's really interesting.
They're tiny, aren't they?
Yeah. I think they're a little bit bigger than the small-headed clingfish.
Okay.
Not by much. They really are small, but the two-spotted clingfish as well. They're mainly off-the-shelf species, but occasionally they get washed up into rock pools.
Oh, okay.
I know 2 rock pools they've shown up in Cornwall alone. So and one dead one washed up quite recently. I think from a beach in Sussex. I think it was on the east coast. So which surprised me.
So if they're there, you know, you've always got a chance, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the deep sea stuff as well. I mean, I remember looking online. There was a guy who went trying to catch swordfish off island in the Celtic Deep, and he was catching leaf scale gulper sharks. So I mean, the depths that he must have been fishing were unreal. But it just goes to show, like, if you've got the skipper who's willing to do it and the time and the money, there are species that you maybe wouldn't even consider that you could target.
There's even some lunatics going out hiring a boat for a butterfly bunny as well.
Well, who would do that?
I know.
What mad person would do that? But yeah, and it's where you kind of. So where do you draw the line for your list? Is it just Britain, UK, Europe, Earth? What's your list?
For me, just Britain and Ireland.
Britain and Ireland, okay.
I want to focus on 100 species in Britain and Ireland.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, because I did a video recently on. So some of you might know I do like a species hunting challenge on YouTube, and there was an Irish one, and my intro is always the same. It's this week I'm trying to get 100 fish in the UK, and I said this week I'm in Ireland, and that did not go well with with Irish listeners or watchers, I should say. And basically, I wasn't saying that Ireland was in Britain. It was 2 statements straight after each other. But admittedly, it sounds like I'm saying Britain's in Ireland, and they were very grumpy about that.
Understandably so.
Well, you know, but if you look, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If you Google the British Isles, the Republic of Ireland is listed as being in that. The Irish don't recognise it, but the rest of the UK it is. I'm not saying it should be as well. Before I get a load of people saying that, I'm just saying that technically it is listed as the British Isles. But if it's an easier pill to swallow, then yeah, I would agree with you that my list as well would be the British Isles and Ireland, because there's a couple of species that are far more likely in Ireland than the UK, like red goby and a couple of little bits and bobs.
Red goby's high on my list as well. That's a good one.
They're awesome.
Yes.
They're absolute savage. So yeah, you have a good time going for those. But yeah, the whole scope of online is a constant battle. Like the one that you often come to my rescue is the fish poster. My God, there are some absolute
that
turnips.
comment section is the worst.
So to give some context for people, so I've got an A3 fish poster because I had a load of pictures for the book, and I thought, right, I'll make a chip shop fish poster. So there's about 120 species on there, and it just says British fishes, lots of different fish with the names on there. My God, does that draw out the cunts? Like, you would just think there is literal war, there is famine, there is, a homeless crisis. There is so many big problems in the world right now, and yet people get offended and angry because I've listed a few fish on a poster. And
the thing is, you've not even got it wrong. They're just confidently incorrect.
That's a fantastic way to describe it. You'll get sort of go, that's not a blah-de-blah, that's a blah-de-blah. And I'm like, I'm not asking you. I know what they are. Yeah. And there's so many people on there. And
people like, you should try fishing for them, or you should... You're the one that's photographed them all. They're all your photographs.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I don't know what it is. It just seemed like in the last couple of years, or like without getting too political, that online has just turned into a massive dumpster fire.
It's so polarising.
And it seems to be like the arseholes have been let loose. Like it used to be a relatively innocent, happy place. Yep. This is not where I thought the podcast was go today. We were talking about the state of social media, but and now it's just absolutely full of cockwombles. Yep. There's so many people who are just like, and I'm like, we're just talking about fish. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, chill the fuck out. And people get absolutely rooted because they think that I've got a fish wrong on a poster, and I'm like, just keep scrolling, mate.
It's just a fun poster.
Yeah, that's I'm not trying to trigger anyone, but yeah, it's a weird world.
I think you are. That's why you keep posting it.
I know. Yeah, well, you're
not trying to sell it. You're just trying to outrage people.
I am. Yeah, I get some clickbait on there, literally. But yeah, it's a funny one anyway. But yeah, if anyone wants a good laugh, just go on my Facebook page, have a look at some of the A3 poster pictures I've put on there, and just read the comment section. It is, it's an interesting one. There are some absolute tools on there. We're not doing very well fishing, Josh, are we? We've been here for...
We're focused, too busy on talking.
I know. We need to kind of up our game and try and catch something with a bit of luck. So I think, should we move spots maybe, see if we can get a fish, and we'll leave it there.
Sounds good.
Oh, actually, no, we won't leave. No, we won't leave it there.
Oh, okay.
Because Birchirs, sell me Birchirs.
Sell you Birchirs. Well, do you want a Birchir?
I would love a Birchir.
Okay, then I can sell you a Birchir.
Okay, what is it? Right. What is a Birchir?
Well, it's not. Oh no, that's a
Did
snag.
you get a bite?
No, that was a snag.
Okay.
That was a snag.
Okay, it wasn't a Birchir.
Birchir, yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, no. So they're an ancient group of prehistoric fishes.
Okay.
They I keep them in my aquarium, of course, naturally. They look like little crocodiles.
They're awesome.
They do death rolls like crocodiles as well.
Do they actually?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, if you just get like again, they're predatory, so you get maybe a whole fish or a whole fish fillet.
Yeah.
And if you've got two of them in a tank, what they'll do is they'll go up. Oh, they can't swallow this. They'll fit it in their mouth, but they can't swallow it. That was a bite.
Oh, okay. We actually might see a fish. Oh, I can see something. You've got something. What is it? Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah. Let's get a look. Is that painted? What is that? There's a little painted.
A painted goby. Wow.
That was mid-water.
Really?
That was mid-water, yeah.
It's identifying as a two-spot.
Yeah. Happy with that.
So it's called a painted goby. It's got like the saddles on its back. It's probably only about 2 or 3 centimetres, isn't it? But beautiful little fish, though.
Average.
Is that average for the size of them? Or for something else?
It's me being filthy.
Oh.
It's a lovely little thing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, really red, that one. Really red.
They're gorgeous, yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, well, we have caught a fish here, so that's good. I'm realising podcasting's not the right medium for this because we're just staring at a fish that no one else can see. But
yeah, just look at that, guys.
Oh, lovely. But Birchirs, yeah. So they're ancient-looking. I always think like they look like what fish would look like during the dinosaurs, if that makes sense.
Well, they lived during the dinosaurs.
Oh, well, there you go then. That's probably why then.
Predated them and... Well,
predated them? They're older than that? Oh, wow, okay.
So it's quite interesting. This is something I'm doing a revised edition of my book on Birchirs, and I'm updating some recent information on them. So originally we thought Birchirs emerged in the Devonian period. So around 384 million years ago.
Wow. So that's when you had Dunkleosteus in the sea, right?
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
Which... That's already quite impressive, though weirdly the fossil record only goes back 150 million years of Birchirs.
Right.
So we only know that they dated back, or we only assume they dated back that far because that was how
we
placed them.
So it could be that they were even older.
No,
No.
maybe, but it's not that likely. So
No, okay.
So the reason for that gap, so that leaves a 250 million year gap in the fossil record.
Yeah, it's quite a big hole, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's a problem there we need to sort of fill.
Yeah.
So that either means that they were from those Birchirs, those ancestral Birchirs were from locations where it wasn't easy to fossilise, or, which is more likely, we've already got their ancestors in museum collections and we've not yet attributed them to modern day Birchirs.
Oh, okay.
Turns out that is the case. There's a group called Scanalepiforms, which we've now associated with Birchirs, and it turns out they are ancestral. So they came from Laurasia and moved down to Gondwana before they split. So that was during Pangaea.
Wow,
And they migrated down. So then Birchirs ended up as close to modern, let's say, we'll call modern Birchirs from today to 150 million years ago.
Right.
So they lived in South America and Africa. They're now extinct in South America, but there's a lot of them are still around in Africa.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's really cool.
Do they make good pets? Because you've got some, right?
Very good pets. Yeah.
Okay.
I've kept every species of Birchir.
Oh, nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because
Still do, actually,
what's the if you go to an aquarium shop, you'll often see the smaller ones for sale, won't you? The
Yeah, they call them the Senegal Birchirs mostly, but they call them dinosaur Birchirs or dinosaur eels, dragon eels.
That's it, yeah. So that's probably the one. If you're just a casual kind of going to aquariums and stuff, that's probably the one you're most likely to have seen, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's multiple species of them, plenty of them, and some of them grow to over a metre long. All of them appear in the aquarium trade. Not all of them will get that big in the aquarium.
No.
But they do need big tanks.
But they are amazing fish, and the reason I've brought those up at the end is Josh has done a fantastic book on Birchirs. If you're into the aquariums, if you're into weird fish, I highly recommend the book. It's got some really thought out design and information. People want to get the book. Where's best for them to kind of have a look at that?
The BirchirHandbook.co.uk.
Okay, that's fairly easy
to
get that. But no, it is awesome. They are. If you've never, how do you spell Birchir? People want to kind of Google. Is it B-A?
B-I-C-H-I-R.
Oh.
There you go. It's interesting
right.
though because there's an argument with this about how do you pronounce Birchir. I really don't care, to be honest.
No, well, we kind of covered that earlier, didn't we? Yeah, no, I mean,
but a lot of people find it quite. Some people say it's Biker, others say Birchir.
Oh, okay.
And some people say Birchir.
Right.
So I'm happy with Biker or Birchir.
Okay.
Because Biker there's an argument that when a scientific name is Latinised, it must follow the Latin pronunciation.
Right. Okay.
So that's one argument. So if that's the case, when the scientific name for one species is Polypterus biker,
right.
the common name is Birchir, but you can say it biker if you want, because that comes from the local name at the time for when they were discovered in the Nile, and that was Abu Shir.
Right, okay.
But it was one of Napoleon's naturalists who discovered them.
Oh, wow. Good old Napoleon.
I say discovered. He had the fishermen spot them.
Yeah.
But yeah, he ended up describing them, and he thought when they said Abu Shir, he thought they meant this is a Birchir. So he dropped the A.
Got you.
And he gave it a French spelling.
So it's like a bastardisation of that.
So he turned the SH into a CH.
Well, they're an awesome. I mean, I can't. Yeah, they're an awesome fish. I whenever I go, I always kind of to an aquarium or to just a public one to get stuff. Always got to have a look for them because they're such cool looking fish. Well, I think we've exhausted our nerd batteries on fish. Let's head off and try and catch them.
Let's do it.
That was Josh Pickett. I really enjoyed chatting away to him. I'll link his blog if you want to read some of the things that he's talked about, and he goes into way more detail. I know he was very conscious about getting some of the statistics and facts wrong, so if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description to that for people to have a look. I've got some non-fishy podcasts coming up, which I'm looking forward to. It'd be nice to do something a little bit different. And next week, I've got Anna Macker on the podcast, who's doing a PhD on the Fenrath spider, and she's an all-round expert on spiders. So I'm going to be asking her all the kind of classic questions like, do we eat spiders when we sleep? What are daddy long legs? Do conkers repel spiders? All that stuff. And we're actually going to the spider room at the University of Nottingham, where there are loads and loads of spiders. We get to see some up close. It's a great chat. I really enjoyed doing that one, so that's out next week. This has been the Bearded Tits Podcast. I've been your host, Jack Perks, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Cheers.